The following presentation is coming to you from the Diocese of Orange, California, the home of Christ Cathedral, where the Catholic faith is made crystal clear. This is SJEN TV.
Welcome to St. Joseph Evangelization Network. I'm your host, Father Darrin Merlino, and we are talking about spiritual warfare. Our show is Light in the Darkness. And you know, some of the things that we talk about is actually to help us in this battle. And today we're going to talk about the devil's strategy. So to know your enemy and what he does is probably one of the most important aspects of information that you need necessary to win this war. So welcome, John.
Thanks,
All right.
Father.
So let's talk about this strategy here.
Yeah, we have to, once you acknowledge who the enemy is, that there is an enemy,
right.
Then the next thing is, okay, what's a strategy? How does he work? So, you know, it's actually kind of simple. First of all, Satan doesn't have an original idea. All he can do is ape what is good and holy and true. So the strategy he uses is really God's strategy for calling us. And God doesn't jump out and try to intimidate us or, you know, just lay out the whole plan, you know, right away. He calls us gently, right? Step one, and then to step two, and so he allows for that growth, if you will. Well, and Satan so kind of mocks that and does that same kind of strategy. And so we'll call it toehold, foothold, stronghold.
Okay.
In other words, Satan doesn't come at us with, you know, the pitchfork and the red suit and the stink and the pointy ears and, you know, try to get us to commit murder day one. It's not going to happen, right? We're just not going to do that. But he's very smart, and he's very subtle, and he's fully aware of your and my sin patterns. He doesn't know what we're thinking, but he knows what we've done. And so he's an expert at observational intelligence, right? So he sees that when I go do this and then do this, I tend to fall into sin. Right? I just slide right into it. So what does he do? He presents me opportunities to do step one and step two. He starts out with a toehold. He presents me with something that he knows is attractive to me, whether that be alcohol or a drug or pornography or whatever the sin might be, something that would, you know, kind of veer me off course. But not a whole lot, but just a little bit, just kind of get my attention, right? And then, so that's the toehold part. He starts to work on us that way. And then it goes from toehold to foothold. A foothold is obviously a stronger than a toehold. I mean, think of it this way. If you're here, we have the beauty of the ocean. You're out in the ocean and you're swimming around and something grabs your toe. Well, it's a little scary, but it's like, okay, I was able to kick away, not a big deal. I got away, and whew, what was that? You know, maybe it was just a piece of kelp or something that brushed against it. But if something grabs you at the ankle and has a foothold and starts to pull you down, you can feel that, right? And you're like, whoa, this is...
And you're nervous.
Yeah, this is pulling me down, okay, and maybe you're able to kick away. That would be the toehold and the foothold. But the progression then goes to stronghold. Stronghold, think of it in that same analogy. Just think of now several creatures around your waist pulling you down in the ocean, right? Then you're sitting there going, okay, how do I get out of this? And that's a good question because it's pretty tough to get out of that stronghold. The more it progresses, the more ground Satan gains in your life, the more space he's occupying in your head, the more your decisions are focused on you, selfish, and the flesh, and less on God. So as it progresses, it's a lot harder to get out of.
You know what I don't see a lot of is acknowledgement of a false teaching as like a toehold, a foothold, and then you got a stronghold.
Yeah.
And the person's intellect is completely turned around. Like, wait a minute, you used to be pro-life, now you're pro-choice. used to be for marriage between a husband and wife. Now you're into, gay marriage. And then it used to be into the male gender and a female gender. Now you say whatever gender you picked for the week is what you want to be.
Right.
So how do you fight that?
Well, I think the only way to fight that is to use that exact same strategy back. You don't come at your children and start yelling and screaming at them, telling them they're going to hell because, they already know what you think, right? So toehold. Yeah. Go for the easier stuff. Start here. Start nice and easy. Let them know you love them. Sometimes the best toehold is to not say a word, but just to love them, right? Love them where they're at. Right. Now, don't love them where they're at and keep them there.
Right.
Love them where they're at and bring them closer to God.
I think everyone's at that, though. That's the problem.
I know. They just stay there, right? Because I don't want to offend anybody, right? No, offend me with the truth, But it's interesting, Father. It's not just those big, giant things. It's also so often we're not hearing, not only do we hear false teaching sometimes, but we just don't hear true teaching. Just the lack of the word is sometimes more than a toehold. And actually, I think in some ways, and I think you'll agree with this, it actually almost shifts the culpability from me, the layperson in the pews, to the priest who's not saying what's true. Right. I heard a great talk once we were talking about contraception, and the priest mentioned that clergy can contracept by not speaking the truth, by withholding that truth back from the people. And I thought it was a brilliant point to make that, when the words aren't spoken, how am I supposed to know? I have some responsibility to know and to seek out truth on my own. It's been put on my heart and all that. At the same time, if I'm getting no advice or no words about that, or what's worse, I guess it really is worse, is the contrary. No, you're fine. Don't worry about it. Kind of leave it up to your conscience kind of thing. That's the problem. But it always starts out small, and then it gets a little bit more, and then you turn around, you're like, oh my gosh, what happened? How did I get myself into this? Right, and that's how it starts with the drug addiction. Well, the drug dealers know this here. The first bag is free, right? The first smoke is free. The first what they know that. They know the strategy works, right? It's God's strategy, right? It's just that everybody uses it to kind of imitate and ape.
What's what they say, to get somebody addicted to donuts, you give them the donut holes first. That's the gateway drug.
There
right?
you go.
Yeah,
it works. Here's a quote from Aquinas. He says, "Satan does not at once suggest to man something that has an appearance of evil, but something that has a semblance of good."
Yeah, because we are actually attracted to all good.
Yeah. So let's use your examples about, people calling for that marriage is not just one man and one woman. It's love who you love, that kind of thing. Well, of course, it is a good thing that people love each other.
Yeah, you can't argue against love.
Right. That's a beautiful thing. But what's not okay is that type of love always seeks the good of the other. Aquinas tells us that. Mm-hmm. So if you're in a gay marriage, I put air quotes around that, but if you're in a gay marriage and I don't say anything, what I'm saying is I don't care enough about your soul to speak the truth in love to you. Mm-hmm. I'm saying it's okay, you're good because, you love each other. No, love always seeks the good of the other. So if you really truly care about that soul and you believe the church's teachings, then you are required in some form or fashion to speak up. Now, it's certainly never to be out of anger or hatred or anything like that. It's always out of love. St. Teresa Benedicta of the Cross, Sister Edith Stein, who's not a Jewish convert to the faith who died in Auschwitz. She has a beautiful quote, one of my favorite ones. I think I use it every time I speak. She says, "Do not accept anything as love which lacks truth. Do not accept anything as truth which lacks love. One without the other is a destructive lie."
Even Pope Benedict XVI wrote that whole document, Love in Truth,
That's
Truth
right.
in Love.
Yeah.
Because it's hard because there's righteous anger.
Sure.
And Jesus had it. And so sometimes there's a point where you're just frustrated and people are just not getting it. And sometimes you just need the football coach yelling in your face to get you to wake up.
Right.
And then sometimes you said you have to be subtle as a dove, just like kind of sneak in. Like you said, what I liked about the image of the word is like a seed.
Yes.
And so if the seed is planted in fertile ground, it will grow. So like when a priest preaches or a deacon preaches or a bishop and whatever, and if they have the truth and they put that seed out there, it'll grow in the person's soul. Eventually, they will be convinced of the truth. Eventually, they'll finally, I get it. I have an aha moment.
Yes.
And even within the exorcism rite, what the church does is exposes the demon in all of his lies. Boom, 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 boom. And the devil's like, basically the devils are naked in truth.
Yes.
And like, oh shoot, what do I do now? They got me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
and that's where we have to get to. We have to get to that point where we're willing to lose everything.
Yes.
And say to that person, to those people, whether it's again homosexual marriage, whether it's the abortion issue, whether it's the gender issue, why aren't we speaking up about this? Why aren't we standing up and be willing to be crucified? If we as Catholics ever lived our faith the way we're called to live our faith, this world would change in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
It would. And, I use the analogy
sometimes. 1 billion
sometimes.
people. Can you imagine 1 billion people?
And it doesn't even take 1 billion people.
I know.
Right? The demon said to St. John Vianney, if there were 4 more like you, my reign would end.
Yeah.
Right? And
shoot. There's no 3 in the world.
No. And that's the problem. Right? And it's all of our faults. We're not living up to that. But if we ever chose to live our faith the way we're called to live our faith, the world would change. The analogy I use sometimes, and it's kind of a goofy one, but it's like, you remember those old church fairs that we used to have, the bazaars or whatever they're called? And there was always the Ferris wheel, right? Which I've never put my kids on in this day and age. Right? The Ferris wheel was like the one ride at the carnival, at the bazaar, at the fair that every other ride wanted to be. They all know that that's the ride. And none of them are there, right? But they want to be. They aspire to be that. It's the same thing with our faith. I don't care what anybody says. People know the truth of the Catholic faith, and they're looking to see what we do.
Right.
And if we don't do it, why should they?
Right.
And by the way, I think that culpability falls on me. It falls on us. It's not on them. Those who don't know, truly don't know, God's not going to hold them responsible. Sorry, you didn't know. You're out of here. It's only going to be to the level of knowledge that they have. And certainly, again, there is that part that they have to participate in that. But we who know, and we've been given the gifts and the grace of the sacrament, we have to do battle for those who can't or won't.
Yeah.
We have to.
I think that objective truth in revelation, how we're supposed to believe and how we're supposed to act, the Catholic Church was given that fullness. The human intellect is part of that. And when you look at our bioethics as Catholics, we are using our intellect and our will and our science and truth in that. When it comes to divine revealed teachings, for example, marriage, we have no choice here. Jesus said, husband and wife until death do us part. We can't tell him to change his mind.
Right.
Now, if you want to ask me to wear blue or pink clerics, the church could technically change its mind. But that's a man-made law. And I think the key is the toe, the foot, and the stronghold. You have to always go back to what the church teaches, period. Because the truth will always not only set you free, which is a cliche in itself, but the reality is once you have the truth, you have the complete freedom to get out of all of those holds. And that's why cults work so well, is they take the person out of freedom and they isolate the person and they put them away from their family and friends and their support system, and they become the false support system.
Right.
And that's why you have the Jim Jones things and all those cult, they kill off all these people because they never had a full grasp of the teachings of the church. And you have to have almost a PhD to really get a basic understanding of the Catholic. That's the disadvantage we have as Catholics. There's too much to know.
There is. And, there's an interesting point about in this culture, we desperately are looking for family.
To be loved.
Right, to be loved. Ultimately, that's what it is. But in that family unit, somebody loves, someone I know I can go home to every night and they love me.
Right.
Right. And we don't have that. And so we seek that in every other way possible. Mm-hmm. And until we go back and reestablish the family as the fundamental unit of society, excuse me, which means one man, one woman marriage and children and lots of children, right? And be open to life and all of it. Until we do that, we're heading in the wrong direction. We'll just say it that way.
Yeah, it's funny because now what you're saying is if God is generous, we need to be generous. And if we're generous, we'll have more, there's more love. There's more people to love. And they say that for people who live to be 100 years old, human interaction and also the family structure of being in family is how people grow in living a long time.
Well, it's how society grows too, and our culture grows. Yes. And it's not heading in that direction because we're missing that family unit. We're doing everything we can to destroy it, along with certainly with Satan's help.
So to defeat this devil strategy, truth, love, and knowing the church teachings. Wouldn't you kind of agree with that? Anything else I'm missing there?
Yeah, the only other thing I'd say is watch the toeholds.
Watch the toeholds. Watch the small ones.
Watch where it starts. And I'll just give you one quick example.
Yeah.
Grumbling. Oh my gosh! Did you hear Father's homily the other day? It was horrible. Oh, and then trying to get out of the parking lot, it was just crazy. And these people, I just can't. You know, we just finished the celebration of Eucharist. Jesus was present, and He's still present in us that received. And yet we're saying we're grumbling. Grumbling is the anti-praise, and when we grumble, it's one way Satan gets good people.
Wow. Well, thanks, John.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We're watching Light in the Darkness. I'm Father Darrin Merlino with John LaBriola, and we have a surprise next time, so stay tuned and find out what we're going to learn about spiritual warfare.
The preceding program was recorded at Santiago Studios, Orange County, California. This is SJEN TV, where the Catholic faith is made crystal clear.